Hey Denchpegs, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and today we're going to be talking about the newest single from Steven, Crossfire Part 2. First of all, if you guys want to hear some of my immediate thoughts about Steven, I definitely suggest you go check out my review of his debut album Sincerely, which I did earlier this year, and I'm actually going to link that in the description so you guys have that to be able to click right before you get to hear me review this. I had some mixed opinions about the original version of Crossfire. Obviously this is Part 2. This review is going to be a little different than my other track reviews, primarily because I'm going to try to make this one a little bit more of a comparison between the second part and the first part rather than just itself as a single and a comparison to the rest of Steven's music, because this one is definitely different and is in kind of a different category than some of his other tunes from his album. The immediate thing that fans are going to notice with this track is that there are two features on this one in terms of vocals and one with production. First of all, we've got Talib Kweli, who's an absolute legend in terms of the rap game. He's actually done a little bit more in EDM recently, though. Of course, we know about his collaboration greatness with Karma Fields earlier this year on Monster Cat, which I loved a lot, but I'll kind of get into my thoughts about his rap compared to that one in just a second. And then we've, of course, got KillaGraham on production. If you don't know who KillaGraham is, maybe you'll know his side project Milo Otis. He's done music with Skrillex as well. I'm pretty sure he co-produced Stranger on Skrillex's Recess album, which I liked quite a bit. This appearance definitely came as a surprise to me because I haven't heard any of KillaGraham's music in a number of years, or Milo and Otis for that matter, and I think that might be due to the fact that that kind of twerk style that they were leading for a number of months has kind of died out since then, and the like 150 BPM trap movement has kind of taken over, along with like the 140, 150, 160 future bass movement that's going on right now with artists like Flume. But with this track we finally get KillaGraham back on his solo alias and working to make some really awesome production. I actually really love the production on this one, probably quite a bit more than where the original was going. And that's not to say anything bad about the original's production, because honestly the original of Crossfire is probably one of the more unique singles that's dropped within the last year, and I can totally understand why so many people are digging it. It's got a lot of simplicity in certain places, but a lot of really cool elements, like its guitars that are scattered the way through, its vocal samples. There's just so much to take from the original. But with Crossfire Part 2, I'm feeling like this track is a lot less empty than the original. Like I said, not to say anything bad about the original, because that's just kind of the vibe it's going for. But with this one, I think the production really works, especially when Talib Kweli comes in. Part 2 kind of starts out on the same tone that the original was going, except it comes in a lot stronger with these really epic strings, and then a music box comes in and just makes this track even more epic than I thought it was going to be. In the way Steven himself described Crossfire Part 2, he kind of described it as more of a peace and unity anthem, and I definitely feel like it's going for that, although I definitely felt like the original was going for that too. Talib Kweli's verses on this one definitely complement that extremely well. I think a little bit better in the first verse for me, which is hitting a little bit harder than the second. Back in terms of production, I think this thing is layered very well. Although it does strip the original of a few different elements that I was really liking, like its electric guitar and its ending sequence, which I thought was really cool in the original. I think generally KillaGraham's production on this one complements it really well, because his really fat bass line that goes over the drop of this thing combines really well with it and just adds so much atmosphere to what the original was. Also, the electronic trap percussion used throughout the entire track just sounds really good with this, probably better than the percussion on the original. Another thing with Part 2 that I feel like has its ups and downs is Steven's amount of time on this track. I thought he was pushing it a little bit too much with the original Crossfire, just a little bit vocal heavy in my opinion, but there were a lot of lines that I really liked in this one, part of which were stripped away with this one. I feel like the general more well-known chorus was taken from the original and placed back on this one, but I feel like Steven had a lot of really good things to say in the bridge of the original, which isn't included in this one, which I kind of wish it would have been. I think that would have sounded a little bit better, but I can't really complain too much. Like I said, it was a little vocal heavy in the original for me, and I do like how they cut that back. And I think, honestly, with this track, I think it definitely proves that Steven should be expanding his boundaries when it comes in terms of collaborators, because this is probably one of my favorite tracks that he's done in some time. There's just so much diversity and differences from where he was going with his debut album, which kind of carried a fairly general sound. In other words, this track does give me a lot of hope for the future of Steven's music. I'd heard very little coming from him in the months following his album, and I was a little bit worried that we wouldn't be able to hear much from him, and that the album would kind of be a one and done deal, and see him kind of progressing in different directions as a musician. But that's clearly not the case, and Crossfire Part 2 is really good. As always, I have the stream linked in the description so you guys can go check it out if you haven't yet, and if you have, make sure to let me know what you think about this remix in the comments section below. Anyway, I'm Landon Remixes, Steven is not Eden, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.